What is a genuinely terrifying true fact? Story 1. I met a woman in the 90s. My girlfriend worked with her at a charity. Really nice lady. Like your favorite auntie type of person. I learned that she once had a child, a little boy. He only lived to be a few years old. Because one day while they were both playing in the garden, the boy picked up a snail and licked it. Can't remember if it was days or weeks later, but parasites had nested in his brain, then eaten it from inside. What is more terrifying? That common snails can do this, or that your child can be lost so quickly and innocently while you are playing in the garden making memories. I will never forget that. I literally read about an outbreak of this in the southeastern US today. Wash the shit out of your veggies, and don't eat snails and slugs. According to a bunch of sources, the parasites on snails account for 200,000 deaths a year worldwide. That's shocking. Very few are this brain-eating type. 99% of that number is from schistosomiasis, which is a major problem in Africa. A few years ago there was this guy in Australia, who if I remember correctly ate a raw snail or a slug because of a dare or some other reflex reason. He died not too long after that, and I don't think it was a pretty death. Aussie here. This is somewhat of a story parents tell kids to make them behave. Where I'm from, like the Boogeyman, he ate a slug from a dare and was in a coma for a year before being paralyzed and dying 8 years later. Story 2. I got one. So, years ago, I started losing my balance and losing feeling in my legs, as they told me I had only about 5 more years to live. They did an MRI to see how bad the lesions were in my brain. They thought I had MS. So once I do the MRI, they're like, you need to see an ENT, ear, nose, throat, doctor right away. So I'm like, dude, tell me about the MS. And all they do is keep repeating, go to the ENT. So I go to the ENT. And he explains they think I have a giant fungal growth taking up the entirety of my sinus cavities and pressing on my brain. So after medication, a super painful surgery where they had to break my nose and sinuses to get it out, medical stents that were made on a 3D printer using some hardened medicine, and about 4 months of healing, I was back to normal-ish. The horrifying part, the fungus comes from the feces of chickens, and it is being introduced to the air by haulers moving chickens. Everyone in the US breathes in these spores regularly, but it mostly takes hold in people with compromised immune systems. Settling in the lungs is most common, and is often mistaken for lung cancer at first. ATA. Thank you all for the upvotes. Yes, it was histoplasmosis. ATA 2. I have not seen The Last of Us, but now I don't think I want to. And the scary kicker. Fungal disease in humans is increasing with climate change. Warmth makes them easier to spread. We do not have many good antifungal meds, i.e., antibiotics that kill mushrooms. We don't expect to find many, because fungi are more closely related to mammals than our bacteria. So, there are fewer things will kill fungi in a targeted manner without killing you. As someone on medication for a genetic disease that compromises my immune system, this is completely horrifying. Good Lord, my dad worked at a chicken plant semi-truck repair shop as a mechanic for a while and has stage 4 COPD. I wonder if there is any kind of correlation there as well now. This is such an awful concept to even consider. Be careful and safe, internet stranger. My partner is on human hormone injections for psoriatic arthritis. And 2.5 years ago, he almost died. He contacted a fungal infection that generally dogs get, and not humans. He spent 5 weeks in the hospital, one of which he was in a medically induced coma. Once out, he had to take medication for a year to prevent a recurrence. This all happened right before we met, so I apologize for not knowing the specifics, like the type of fungus or medications. He's now on a new brand of injections, and is closely monitored. Thankfully, he's been given a bill of clean health, fungus-wise. Story 3. If you don't get enough calcium when you're pregnant, the fetus saps it right out of your bones, leaving you brittle and vulnerable to osteoporosis. My cousin's 25-year-old wife lost all her teeth while pregnant. despite taking vitamins, etc. Dentures at 25. My teeth were destroyed after giving birth. I was so self-conscious for so long, literally crumbling out of my mouth. Just recently got all the front cavities fixed up and regaining my confidence. But the way that baby said, calcium, mine, really shook me. 6 months pregnant me went to the dentist. No cavities ever. Perfect teeth. 1 year later, 7 cavities and a root canal. During my second pregnancy, my insurance authorized dental appointments every 3 months until I quit breastfeeding. An insurance company, Wild. I guess nature thinks you're done if you have produced an offspring. Natural selection only accounts for a life form's ability to produce healthy offspring, who are themselves capable of producing offspring. So, it sucks. But yeah. Koalas can't do much of anything, but they manage to reproduce. So they're still around. Hell, nature thinks it's cool that the male spider gets eaten after fertilization. The nice part of civilization is trying to deal with what nature doesn't care to account for. Story 4. Our brains will not hesitate to remove something that is vital to us, to keep us alive, by programming it to die. What sort of thing? For example, when you're freezing to death, your brain will shut off blood circulation to your fingers, toes, nose and ears, arms and legs, so it can get all the blood to your body and head to keep them warm, even though you can't realistically function without these parts. That's why people who die from exposure are often found having taken off clothing. You suddenly feel very warm, because your brain is freaking out. I think this is because everything is shutting down. So the blood that was being kept away from your extremities suddenly floods back into the surface capillaries and blood vessel. It's much warmer than your skin, so you suddenly feel very hot. When you go into shock, your brain basically reroutes body functions, taking away something to provide critical support for whatever you're suffering from. Say, you get shot and lose a lot of blood, and somebody stopped the bleeding, establishes an airway, etc., saving your life from the wound. You can still die from hypothermia, even if it's hot outside, because your thermoregulation systems get shut down as it's not considered a priority, even though it can kill you. This is a very basic example. I don't know all the details at the pathophysiology level, but just an example for you. Story 5. With our lifespan increasing due to modern medicine, we are at an increased chance of developing dementia. After seeing a close family member slowly wither away, having machines basically keeping them alive, and having zero quality of life, I never understood the purpose. We should prioritize quality, not quantity. And if someone is ready to go, have that conversation and let them make a decision. My loved one confided in me when he was lucid that he wanted it all to end. Wish I could have helped. My granddad was fairly heavily affected by his dementia when he received a cancer diagnosis. By that point, treatment wasn't recommended besides palliative care. He kept forgetting about it and wanting to go walking in the mountains, only to realize as he got to his feet that he didn't have the strength. Then COVID hit, and he couldn't understand it, couldn't remember anything, was physically becoming incredibly weak and tired. He had no idea what was happening to him. He survived for 2 years after his cancer diagnosis. 10 years after his diagnosis of dementia, he died a scared, angry, lonely old man. A far cry from the exuberant, generous, energetic person I'd grown up with. It is beyond inhumane that we do this to people.